Alright, so this lesson is on how to simplify and multiply radicals. Okay. Alright, so we're looking at the first one, which is the square root of 45. We know how to do like square root of 36. Well, it's just 6. Yeah, we know how to do it when it's a perfect square, but what if it's not a perfect square? Okay. Alright, what you're gonna do is make it blank on the inside. Your number is 45. So what you're gonna do is look at this list of perfect squares, and you're gonna say what is there, but what's the biggest number on this list that goes into 45 if there's anything at all? And so which number goes into 45? 9. So you're going to rewrite 45 as 9 times whatever, and it's 9 times 5. Okay? And then you can simplify the perfect square part. The 9 comes out, square root of 9 is 3, and the 5 stays in. Okay? So all you do is you take whatever's underneath 45 and you say what's the biggest number of on my perfect square list that goes into 45, and you rewrite it, and then you bring the perfect square out. Okay. All right, now number 2 is a little bit different because it's got x's and y's on there, but it's not any harder. Okay. All right, so let's gonna do 32. All right, so we'll make it blank. All right, be careful with 32. 4 goes into 32, 4 times 8, but it's not the biggest. The biggest one that goes into 32 is 16. So we're going to rewrite it as 16 times 2. And then the square root of 16 comes out as a 4. Now, you'll notice when I'm writing it down, I'm leaving a gap in between the 4 and the square root of 2 that I didn't leave on the first one. And that's because I got to deal with those x's and y's. Okay, to take the square root of a variable is really easy. You just divide it by 2. So I'm going to take the exponents on the x and y and divide them by 2. So like I'm going to say 2 into 26. Well, that goes, well, it goes 13 times, but okay. So when you divide it, the top number is how many come out, and the bottom number is how many are left inside. So this tells me that 13 x's come out, and there are none left. Okay, and then I would do the y's. So I say 2 into 15. So divide that out. That goes 7 with 1 left. So that tells me how many y's come out and how many are left in the inside. So y to the 7th comes out. 1 y is left. Okay, don't let the x's and y's throw you off. All you're doing is dividing by 2. All right, let's do these two. All right, number 3 works the same way. We're going to deal with the 200 first. So I make it blank. Okay, what's the biggest number? And it's a square root, so I'll look on my list of squares. What's the biggest number that goes into 200? Okay, 4 goes, 25 goes, but the biggest number is 100. So we're going to write 200 as 100 times 2. And then the square root of 100 comes out as a 10. And I'm going to leave a gap because I have x's and y's, and leave that too. Alright, so remember, you divide the exponents by 2. So for the x, I need to divide y by 2. Well, it goes 2 times with 1 left. So 2x is out, 1 left, and then 2 into 9 goes 4 times. Alright, with 1 left, so that tells me 4 y's come out, 1 y's left. Remember, the top is how many come out, the bottom's how many are left inside. And so this is my answer. Alright, a cube root, like number 4, works the same way, except for I don't need to be looking at a list of squares. I've put this extra list of cubes up here for you. So I would draw me a blank cube. Okay, so you're going to say which one of these numbers goes into 24. Okay, and that's going to be 8 times 3. Okay, cube root of 8 comes out as a 2, and then that 3 stays in. Alright, for a square root, we divided our x's and y exponents by 2. What would you divide them by for a cube root? 3. So now I'm going to say 3 into 8. Well, that goes 2 times with 2 left. So that's how many come out. That's how many are left in. So 2x's out, 2x's in. And then I divide 3 into 9. Well, 3 into 9 goes 3 times with none left. So that tells me 3y's out. Okay. The cubes just look a little bit uglier, but they don't work any different. Okay. Alright, so to multiply, all you're going to do is multiply the inside. Okay, so I'd say what's 12 times 4 is 48. And if I multiply those x's, x to the 5th times x is x to the 6th. And y to the 3rd times y to the 4th is y to the 7th. So you put it together first, and then you break it apart. So you're going to say, alright, 48. Let's make it blank. Which one of these numbers The biggest one that goes into 48 is 16. 16 times 3. Okay, use your calculator if you need to. Square root of 16 comes out as a 4, and the 3 is left on the inside. All right, let's do our x's and y's. So I divide 2 into 6, and it goes 3 times with none left, so 3 x's out. And I divide 2 into 7. It also goes 3 with 1 left, so 3 y's out, 1 y in. All right, this works the same way. Multiply them together. 15 times 10 is 150. You get x to the 4th, y to the 5th. Okay. All right, so let's deal with the 150. Make it blank. The biggest number going into 150 is going to be 25 times 6. Okay. Square root of 25 comes out as a 5, and we leave the 6 in. Okay, now divide the x's and y's by 2. So 2 into 4 goes 2 times with none left. So 2 x's out. And I need to do 2 into 5 goes 2 times with 1 left. So 2 y's out, 1 y left in. All right, number 7 works the same way as the previous two, except for I need to be looking at the cube list now instead of the square list. So when I multiply them, cube root of 6 times cube root of 9 is cube root of 54. Okay, so you could take your calculator and divide it by 8 and divide it by 27, and you'd see that 54 is 27 times 2. So what is the cube root of 27? It's 3, and it's left on the cube root of 2. I mentioned this in your notes, but we listed out our squares and cubes back when we were talking about back drawings, so you can find them in your notes that you printed. Okay, and then these last two multiplied, don't let them throw you off too much now. We're going to go over them in a little bit better detail in a couple of videos from now. But when you've got something right outside of parentheses, you distribute. Okay, you can multiply things together that aren't under a radical, and you can multiply things together that are. So when I distribute, I can multiply the 4 by the 2x and get 8x on the square root of 3. I just have to bring that square root of 3 along. And then when I multiply here, okay, I can do outside numbers. So I can multiply the 4 and the 5 and get 20. And I can multiply the inside numbers, okay, which is the 3 and the 7, and get square root of 21. Okay. Now, you can only add them together if they're like terms. Well, a square root of 3 and a square root of 21, those aren't like terms. And can you simplify them? Well, you can't simplify square root of 3 because none of these numbers go into 3. Do any of those numbers go into 21? Nope. So there's nothing I can do. So I just have to quit here. All right. And this last one, it's a FOIL. Okay, 2 by 2, a binomial FOIL. And we'll be doing this, like I said, in greater detail later. All right, so when I do first time first, I would say outside together, 2 times 5 is 10. And inside, I would get x times x, or x squared. Okay. Outside. All right, so I'm doing 2 times a negative 9. I get negative 18, and I just have to bring that square root of x. All right. Inside, I'm doing 3 times 5 on the square root of x, so I get 15 square roots of x. I can put the 3 and the 5 and multiply them together since they're not underneath. And then last times last, what is 3 times a negative 9? That's going to be a negative 27. So let's work on simplifying this. Okay, I can only add and subtract them if they're like terms. So I can see that I have some like terms here. I'm going to be able to put those together. Okay. Now here, you can simplify that. What is the square root of x squared? Well, if you divide it by 2, it goes 1 time with none left. So that becomes 10x. The square root of x squared is just x. If I put those together, you only put the coefficients. I get a negative 3 on the square root of x, and I get a minus 27. None of those are like terms, so there's where I stop.